I'm Glenn Miley, and this is When Society Fails. We're going to cover what could cause a society failure. There are many things in this country going on today that could cause a complete society failure. One being an economic failure. We are already in economical hard times in this country with unemployment rates at record levels. People are getting fed up with the government, and people are getting desperate. People are getting hungry. When people are out of work, they still got to eat, right? And they're going to start pillaging and stealing. And when people start stealing, the stores start getting hurting. Prices go up, which makes people that can afford it now no longer be able to afford it, and they start stealing. And then the stores become a crime haven. So people who can afford the food, they don't want to go there because it's covered in crime. So they go somewhere else. So those stores, they end up closing down. All the businesses shut down. People that have a plan in place or have prepared, they go in hiding, which removes their dollars from the economical situation, which then the crime just starts to get heavy. There's no stores to steal from, so the crime moves to the neighborhoods, and they start stealing from each other. And you say, well, where's the government? Where's the military? The military is about one person for every 1,000 people in this country. They cannot fight all the crime. Okay, and in addition to that, everybody in the military has a wife, has kids. Well, not everybody. Most people in the military have their own families to protect. They're not going to stand on your street corner to protect you when their wife and kids are at home by themselves. They're going to take off. Look in 2005 at Hurricane Katrina. In New Orleans, after the hurricane hit, the cops were nowhere around to be found. They took off. They went to help their own family and their own people to get safe. They're not going to protect you when their own family is in harm's way. So once crime starts to multiply, it's like a dam breaking. You can't do anything about it but get out of the way or be a victim. We also have the ability to have a major race war in this country. Races in this country have always been at each other's throats. We're trying to get along, but there's always a group of people from every race that push the envelope, and eventually one of the three major races in this country, whites, blacks, and Hispanics, are going to crack and just go crazy, and which that will then again have the high crime in the cities, which is going to push people to the outsides. It's going to put a strain on food supplies, and people are going to start stealing and start killing for food. We already have crime in this nation. People already steal and kill and rape and pillage. Now just imagine how bad it would be if it was hard for the law to protect you. You got to protect yourself. In a lawless land, there's crime. Everybody becomes a criminal. Even you will become a criminal in some sense. Not a murderer, not a raper, but you'll become a criminal in some sense. So when crime gets out of control, every situation that could cause a failure, the end result is the same. Crime gets so out of control, people start dying, and the people who have a plan in place go in hiding. And when people go in hiding, it just escalates the failure. People are gone, the cities are a war zone, and you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. Another situation is the government. The government's getting too big. A lot of people feel Big Brother's watching, and eventually, at some point, those groups of people will repel against the government. They will rebel and fight back and cause, again, another economic. Every situation will then turn to crime and cause a failure in society. And you got to have a plan in place, of a place to go and get away from that. If you live in a big city, you will never survive in a big city. You will never survive holding up in your own home unless you're out in the country. You think you're going to hold up in your house with just your wife and your kids and your 6-month stock of food. You think you're going to be able to protect that? You got 4 walls. There's only one of you. You're not going to sleep. You're going to have a plan in place to protect your food, to protect your supplies, and protect your family. And even with that, though, this disaster, once it happens, it's going to be decades before society is like it is today. So you need to have plans in place for sustainability, not just have prepared food. You need to have a plan to make your own food, to grow your own food, and to survive off the land. We're going to cover that in another chapter. Another way for society to collapse is a power grid failure. Power grid failure is very real. Our power grid in this nation, is pretty weak and pretty vulnerable to an attack. If terrorists were to attack our power grid and knocked out major key components, it would knock the power out nationwide, possibly even continental-wide. And that, again, you're like, well, how does that affect? Well, again, crime. Crime will go up because people are too busy worrying about something else. People are busy trying to get the power back on. And then people will take advantage of the situation and crime will go up. And then as crime goes up, the people that are out trying to protect you and out trying to get the power back on, they're not going to do it anymore. They're going to go back home and protect their own family. So then power will never come back on. If we lose power nationwide and it's off for a month, it won't be coming back on, ever. You see, to control the amount of people in this country today is so large, and to control that amount of people is impossible. You ever been to a party where somebody's trying to get a group of 30 people together for a photo? You know how hard it is to get those 30 people to agree to come to that spot and meet for the photo? Now try to make that 350 million people nationwide. Everybody in the country, try to get them to work together to get society back on track, to keep society from failing. Good luck with that. The best thing you can do is go in hiding, survive yourself, and come out of the cave in 10 years when all the dust has settled. So those are the ways society could fail on us today. Power grid failure, very, very possible. Overthrowing of the government, again, very possible. A major race war, it's possible. It's possible. And economic failure, we're in hard times. Those are real situations. Those aren't zombies. Those aren't some major disease, something sci-fi from Hollywood. Those are real life situations that are going on around us today, every day. The only thing that we can hope out of a society collapse, well, let me start over on that. When we have a society collapse here, it's going to be worldwide. You say worldwide, and you can only kind of hope it's worldwide, and actually a society collapse in another country could then trigger a society collapse here in America. Let's say, for example, in the Middle East. You got Israel, you got Bethlehem, you got the Holy Land at arms with Iran, talking about having a big war. Well, if they did that, it's going to kill our oil supply. As much as we don't like to think we're dependent on their oil, we are. And if we lost that supply, our oil prices, our gas prices at the pump are going to skyrocket. Can you afford $40 a gallon? Can you afford to spend $100 on your round trip to go to work to make $80? It's not going to happen. So what are you going to do? You're going to quit working. Then you're going to start stealing. Then you're going to start pillaging. And it's going to trigger the entire economic collapse because of the Middle East having problems. All right? Every country relies on every other country. We get our oil from the Middle East. We get most of our luxury goods from China, the States. So, if China failed, it would hurt us. If the Middle East failed, we would fail. If we failed, the Middle East would fail. We're not buying their oil. Who are they going to sell their oil to? China would fail because we're not buying their product. Africa would fail because we ship out billions and billions of tons of wheat and corn, grains, to Africa, China, and our coal supply that goes to China. If we failed, those supplies would be lost. So they wouldn't be able to produce. So they too would fail. But in all reality, as bad as it sounds, you can only hope that a society collapse here triggered a worldwide society collapse. Because the last thing we need while we're down on our knees is another country saying, hey, let's go kick them while they're down. So if for some strange reason the United States had a collapse and no other nation had a collapse, well, there's not much you can do to protect yourself because it's going to be, I wouldn't even want to be around to deal with it because when another country comes in and starts pushing us around, it's going to be ugly. But I don't see that possibility. I see it being worldwide. It may take a little longer for it to spread from one country to the next, but it would be a worldwide collapse. I thank you for watching. Be sure to comment, like, and tell me what you think. If you think I'm full of it, put it in there. If you like what I'm saying, subscribe so you make sure you get the next episodes. And we'll see you, hopefully, when the dust settles.